Hey you guys, it's Cyrenese with Poised Finance and Lifestyle. So today I want to talk to you guys about a meme that I ran across where the guy asked the woman, what does she bring to the table? And the woman responded, I bought the table. I thought this meme was pretty funny, but also pretty rude. So I wanted to get my husband involved and have a conversation about it. Because I know that if I was asked this, I do not know how I would normally or naturally respond to it. I would naturally be aggressive and upset that you asked me, what do I bring to the table? My value is, because I would assume that you naturally already saw it in me. And that's why you wanted to continue a relationship with me. So I kind of wonder, at what point would a guy even have the the courage to even ask this type of question?
Yeah, I mean, one, I think is an uncomfortable question to ask. If I was to approach it, I probably hit the angle where it's like, what's your long-term, short-term goals? And then do a waiting game and kind of see how her actions match what she what she wants. To just come out and ask, what do you bring to the table? I'm thinking there's like one or two things going on here. One, or a couple of things. One, they're not interested in them anymore and they're getting tired of them and they're trying to make them realize they're the problem. Two, somebody has requested something in a relationship and the other person feels responsible for it and they don't feel the other person is sacrificing enough to achieve that goal, whatever it could possibly be.
Do you think that women have more goals than men?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
I don't know what it is. I mean, Chris Rock would tell the joke, and I didn't get it at first until I started, being in relationships, and especially when I got married. He was like, "What do women want? Everything. Is women ever gonna be happy? No, because you want everything, right?" And I started realizing that women are very ambitious, and when you're going through like trying to stay motivated, they tell you that you have to keep aiming for the stars. Don't settle for something that's close to you. In order for you to progress, you have to shoot far. And I think women naturally do that, where they plan for the future. And so a man, well, I know me personally, I can't speak for every man, but I know most of the time I'm thinking long term, but I'm working on my short term executions. Right? So when it comes down to some goals that women come up with, and I'll pick you specifically, sometimes you say you want something that's really far out, but you won't stop talking about it. And so to me, I feel like it's not a long-term goal anymore. I feel like it's something that you want now. And as long as you keep mentioning it, I think you're unhappy. And so when I start feeling pressure and you keep talking about it, I might jump up and say, well, what are you doing to sacrifice for this? You get what I'm saying? As a whole, out of frustration. So I just don't feel like it's natural for a dude or a woman to ask that question just bluntly. I think they're probably fed up or frustrated by the time they ask that question.
That's true. I also feel like when Michelle Obama did that speech at the Essence festival, and she talked about, being very cautious of building yourself, bringing something to the table for yourself, and also in picking a partner, picking someone that is as motivated as you, that wants to grow with you, not at different levels, and where you guys are both being, aggressive towards your goals as a team, because you're team members.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I feel like when people say the statement, what do you bring to the table? It's more of like, we're not teammates. It's your team versus my team. What I have is mine and what you have is yours. And I feel like that makes it very difficult to create a table together. That works together for the actual family of where you're actually at, and not where your mind's taking you or where your past was at. More of where you're trying to take your family forward. And I think a lot of women, we forget how much power we have in our relationships, in our finances, in our marriages. And we forget that sometimes. I think society does devalue us sometimes, especially when it comes to motherhood and just women in general. We do get paid less. We get no credit when we do like motherly things just because that's expected from us. Same thing with husbands or men, you're expected to provide, you're expected to make money. It's not a wow factor. It's not really counted as bringing anything extra to the table.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like it's difficult to even answer that question.
It's a stereotype as well, because if I'm a man and I'm making a lot of money, I feel like that's all I have to bring to the table, right? And I'm not in that position, but I'm just saying, like, you definitely see a characteristic in them to where they're bringing the money and that's pretty much it, and the woman just has to deal with whatever laziness they have that accommodates with the money. But a woman not being a good mom, not taking care of the house, not, all those stereotypical roles that are changing,
they are changing.
They are frowned upon. And there's not much positive light within it, right? Even if you're a woman that's choosing to not work and take care of her kids, you get frowned upon. You're a woman that works and decides not to have kids, you get frowned upon.
Even if you get divorced or you're a single mom, you get frowned upon. You just can't win sometimes.
And so you do have to, what Michelle Obama was saying, you do have to build yourself up. You have to get to a point where you can take the hits. And I think as like young people, right, it's vital that in that beginning stage, before you decide to get into a committed relationship, you start working on yourself, and you know what you can bring to the table. And when you know what you can bring to the table, you should never have to justify it, because everybody around you know what you bring to the table.
Yeah, it's coming off natural.
Yeah.
The vibe is just so strong that you're like, I know this person's very positive. They're very hard worker. Yeah, I could tell.
Yeah.
They're not out here just partying. They're partying, but they're working really hard for their dreams, and it's gonna show. And
there's a weird dynamic. So like, let's say if I go to the South, there's a few levels to it from that location. One, there's some old school parents that would prefer that their daughter or son marry early. That way they build everything together versus bringing something separate to the table, because they think it creates conflict.
And that's hard, because over here is opposite in California. Over here,
I don't know if it's just California. I think the times are changing.
Big cities too, though.
The reason why I think the times are changing is because the divorce rate is
very
a lot higher than it was back in the day.
And we have commitment issues on top of that.
But
We've seen that. We've seen the divorces, and we've seen that those commitments don't make a lot of sense sometimes.
But I think those commitment issues are associated based on parents divorcing.
Absolutely.
And because of that divorce, the mom or the dad become protective of their kids.
Yeah.
And they don't want them to end up in a position where they can't take care of themselves, because a lot of times in divorces, somebody becomes the victim.
Someone does.
Somebody loses.
It's usually the women.
And so when you go through being the victim in a divorce or a split relationship, you don't want your kids to go through the same horror. So what do?
The same thing my grandmother always tells me: go to school, get a career, build yourself up, save money, don't go crazy buying crap. That's all they tell you. Invest your money.
But they used to say, go find a man.
A good man.
Yeah. And now they're saying,
build yourself up.
Make sure you build yourself up, because if he drops you, you can land on your feet. And I don't want you to be a victim. And a lot of dads look at their daughters and say, make sure he's bringing something to the table. You get what I'm saying? Make sure that you're not just his pushover. Make sure he knows your value, because we've seen it, right? And I think between that, culturally, I think just time, and I would even throw in reality TV.
Oh my God.
Right? Because I think we went through a phase when we grew up where that was when like MTV and all these other shows were coming out about dating. And they were like,
a lot of catfishing, all the crazy stuff.
I mean, but the catch it was fast love. It was The Bachelor,
it was
Bachelorette, like love at true sight, which is fake. You get what I'm saying? Like, I don't believe that just because you see somebody, you fall in love with them and it's all going to work out, because that person can be a douche.
At that point, you're just going off physical. You're not going off anything else that comes out of their mouth, how they think, how they present themselves, their goals.
So in those shows, they ask the question, what do you bring to the table? The Bachelorette, what is it? Why should I pick you? It's like a job interview.
It's not really dating.
It's not really dating.
It's not really love.
It's an interview to make sure that the return on investment of my time is going to be returned to me.
The ROI.
Yeah, the ROI is going to be returned to me, and I'm not wasting my time, because that's the generation we're in. We don't want to waste time.
Yeah.
And so by jumping in and asking that uncomfortable question, you could ruin a good relationship because you're too busy telling them what value. Even I told you.
No, but even showing off what your value is, like, oh, I bought the table. This is my table. Whatever you bring is like scraps.
See,
you know what I mean?
I don't even like that question, because even in the meme.
I said how she answered it was even very aggressive.
The way the meme answered the question, I bought the table, is a clever clapback.
It is a clever
but it's actually not answering the question, because what did you bring to the table? And you say, well, I brought the table. Most people, the question wasn't about the table. What are you putting? What are you bringing to the table? Do you get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is there anything you're adding other than, like, if I said, oh, all you're going to do is just bring the money. You're not going to take care of the kids. You're not going to help me clean up. You're not going to make food. You're not going to put gas in the car. You don't do anything but work. And you think this is going to work out?
That's not enough.
So why would
it's not
she
enough
think
then or now?
It's not enough for a man to say it, and it's not enough for a woman to say it.
Mm-hmm.
So why would that answer be sufficient to shut him up? Because the table's still empty. We hungry. You get what I'm saying? The table's here,
issue.
But there's no food on it. There's no condiments. There's no cloth. There's nothing. It's a table that offers no value to anybody other than you and your ego.
But even deeper, do you think that people should be bringing stuff to the table constantly? Because I heard another video, and she was saying, this other girl was saying that if you don't bring something to the table every time, you shouldn't be part of this family. And I felt like, I was like, wow, that's deep. And that's hard because, you can't be on it all the time. Even I get tired, and I don't wash clothes for a week. I mess up. I skip on things because I get tired as well. I'm a person. You get tired,
Yeah.
1 week you might not be romantic. That doesn't mean you're not bringing anything to the table in general and you're not valuable. It just means, you might be a little burnt out. That's normal.
Yeah, I mean, but I think, let's say our table, right? The table we have. I think we designed that table ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm. For it to work for us.
For us, for that table to work, I feel like we've designed something that we know every inch of it.
Mm-hmm.
And the pieces that we don't know, let's say from your angle, looking at the table, the left leg, I sit on the other side. The left leg is a little bit loose,
mm-hmm.
right? It's your job to tell me
mm-hmm.
that portion of the table is loose, right? That's what a relationship is. You don't expect me to know everything. It's your job to keep me up to date. When it comes down to that table, I think the roles are all, I bring the salt, you bring the pepper. But I need to know how to fill the pepper up. Do you get what I'm saying? You teach me that.
That's very important because that's one of the biggest things that I've noticed in personal finance. I was telling your brother as well, is that a lot of women, they just put this responsibility of personal finance on the spouse.
Mm-hmm.
And the girls that are single, they're just waiting for their future spouse to take care of it as well. And when, time goes by and the spouse passes away, they're still lost.
Yeah.
They don't know what they're invested in. They don't even know where their money's at. They're lost. And it's very devastating around a time where they just lost someone that they love.
I mean, I think,
and that's the biggest issue I feel with personal finance with women specifically. We are giving all of the power to the guys, no offense, and we don't know anything. We barely know the basics, and I mean,
the guy doesn't know anything either. Like,
I know,
blunt,
but to put
like,
all
we're the ones that
exactly. Imagine how you feel though.
And not ask for directions.
Driving at night.
You get what I'm saying? So we're not going to tell you that we don't know about finances because we are risk takers.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying? Like, even if we're oblivious to what we're doing, our ignorance is our defense, right? I didn't know about the 401k. Did you know? No, you didn't know. And shut up. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the scenario. So don't think because women are giving up the power to men, they're giving up the power to men who don't know either. They don't know either. You know what I'm saying? Oh my
God, that's horrible.
Because none of us are taught that. None of us are really taught about money. There are some families that are fortunate enough to be able to circulate the knowledge. But in most first generations and most minorities, we're just now trying to figure out money. In the grand scheme of things, it's no one person's responsibility. It's a household thing.
I agree.
And that's what the grip of it is. at the table, what do you bring to the table?
Everyone
I bring
brings something.
whatever is needed at the table. And if you're unable to bring your portion and you've been consistently bringing it, then it's my job to step in and help you when you can't. So sometimes it's going to be awkward. Sometimes it's going to be a 60-40 split. Then sometimes it might reverse. It goes 70 your way, 30 my way. But most of the time it'll go 50-50. But along the way, you should be learning what I know how to do. You should learn how to hook the cable up to the TV.
And you should learn how to invest and do all the other stuff
Exactly.
for the kids.
I should learn how to change a diaper. I should know how to fold their clothes. I should know how to wash clothes. I should know how to
I'm glad you know how to do all
wash
those
their
things.
hair, understand conditioner. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, that's a new thing for you,
it's
especially for
but
girls.
If I would have just said, but if I would have just said, that's your job, right?
All the time, then
that's
you never,
your job. That's what
no
you
one
bring to
learns
the
anything.
table. That's what you bring to the table.
And
you
that's-
wash hair. So if something happened to you, either my daughter's just gonna have dirty hair,
or
right?
rough hair, hard
rough
hair,
right? And I'm like, I don't know what's going on with her head, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm gonna quickly run to somebody else, another woman, to replace you in order to make up for the area in which I chose not to learn from, even though I had hands-on experience.
And that's the biggest thing is that with relationships, like you said about the South, it's so important to build together, grow together. Even if your spouse has a more progressive career than you do, they need to be communicating with you so you can start learning how it feels to be in the room. You know what I mean? And just never constantly growing and learning together, not separately. Because I feel like that's a really big deal with the relationships. You know, if you're reading personal finance books and I'm not reading anything, how am I going to catch up with you? Never.
Yeah, and I mean, what we do is basically Spark Notes, right? I read a book. I come and I tell you about it.
It's a conversation.
It's a conversation. And yeah, you're not getting the full details, but you're not oblivious to what I'm consuming. You know?
Exactly.
It's the same thing with the kids. If there's something where, like, let's say Lee can't have papaya, and when it comes down to feeding the kids, and let's say emergency happens or you have to go to something, and I got to feed the kids, like, it's my job to now feed them. I can't shut down. And
know how to give him his medicine too.
Yeah, I can't shut down and just be like, where's my wife? I can't. That doesn't work anymore.
Not in the real world.
No. And that's how, again, like, for me, one of the things that I think I've been tough on you about, especially after losing my dad, is if something happens to me, I want you to make decisions at the table we built as if we're together still. I don't want it to be to where you make a decision from Cyrenese's point of view. I want you to make a decision thinking of it from both of our point of views.
Our whole point of view, our family's
Do you get
point
what I'm
of
saying?
view.
And I honestly don't want another man just jumping in there, changing all the rules when we made the table together.
We already met the routines. We already have everything set for a reason.
So I would hope that being with me, the area in which I was strong in, you became strong in. That's why I think they say you become one. It's not that you become clones of each other. Yeah, you're stronger in other areas. Like, you're better at taking care of the kids than me, but I'm not useless.
Bad.
You get what I'm saying? As a whole.
Exactly.
And I'm good at fixing things, but that doesn't mean you haven't seen me fix it enough that you can at least figure it out. And if you
I
don't
fixed
know
something this week. I don't know what I fixed.
And if you don't know it, you also know how I find a solution, which is go to YouTube. You get what I'm saying?
You have to learn somehow.
Exactly.
I think that's the biggest thing. Don't worry about what you bring to the table, who bought the table. Worry about building a table together, setting a foundation and a routine that you guys can both feel valuable and, happy in general. So
and the thing too is that a lot of people fear giving their all to the table and then that person leaving them. But what they don't realize is that when you come to the table with the mindset of not using the other person for just the other half that you don't want to do, and you know how to do it, you're actually not a victim.
You're learning a lot.
You get what I'm saying? It's unfortunate,
pick up the other
but you can survive.
You pick up the other person's positive traits without even knowing it.
Yeah.
That's happened to my family. My mom's now like a real estate tycoon now. And that was my dad's thing. And now she's over here killing it. So you just never know what you're really going to learn from someone.
Exactly.
So it's always a positive experience.
Exactly.
It's a learning experience. Nothing's a mistake. It's just you're learning.
Yeah. And that person's a douche. Let them be a douche as a whole. Do you get what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, what is it that you bring to the table? I think one, you should stop focusing on the table and focus on bringing value to the table, whatever that is.
And also
need
building
to be adaptable.
yourself.
Build yourself, but you need to be adaptable.
That's
you
true.
need to not sit there and focus on the statistical things that you need to bring to the table. You and whomever you're with will have a discussion, and you will automatically see what both of you guys bring to the table.
And don't worry about social media, the Kardashians, or what all these other people are bringing to their table. What society tells you should bring to the table.
Yeah.
You make the rules. It's your house.
Exactly.
But at that point, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you guys for listening.